The main character of this story lived a life full of regret and died as a nobody. But fate gave him a second chance. He was reincarnated into the body of a young noble. Now, he has inherited a crumbling empire plagued by greed and corruption, with enemies lurking, ready to strike at any moment. With the experience of his past life, can he rebuild his kingdom, develop his city, raise a powerful army despite all odds? Let's find out. The story starts with the doctor urgently calling for help, asking the team to put the patient on a ventilator. Jean Leshan, our protagonist and the patient, gasped for air as his heart struggled. Jean had been an industrial mechanical designer for 20 years. He was now on the edge of life and death, with his hard work only bringing disappointment and loneliness. His relentless drive had broken his mental health. From birth, his life was full of tragedy. His parents died in a car accident, and he grew up as an orphan. Despite everything, he hoped life would someday reward his efforts. But it never did. After graduating, he got a low-paying job that kept him afloat for 20 years. His personal life was equally bleak, having never experienced intimacy or held a girl's hand. Now, his solitary journey seemed to be ending. Jin's surgeon tried to pull him back from the brink, but Jean questioned the worth of his life. As exhaustion took over, he thought of taking a little nap. The next scene takes us to a luxury villa. Inside, when Jean opened his eyes, he was in an unfamiliar, luxurious room with silk curtains and crystal lights. Panicking, he thought he had wasted all his savings on an expensive hospital room. Then, a notification appeared, startling him in the process, welcoming him to the magical continent of Eldora. He realized he was in an isekai scenario straight out of fiction. He discovered he was now known as Rain. A week passed, and Rain lived a dreamlike life, attended by servants. Slowly, he pieced together the truth. He had died and been reincarnated in the body of Ren Edgar, the third son of the Grand Duke of the Allen Edgar family. Ren had an older sister and brother who cared for him deeply. His sister urged him to eat, and his brother gave him magic water to enhance his power. His mother made him a new shirt. As the youngest and most pampered member of the family, Ren lived a life of comfort. But he felt like a stranger in this world and wondered why he had been given such blessings. He reasoned that this might be compensation for his past hardships. You see, author explains the strange world. The world of Elda was powered by magic. The Coral Empire was the largest human nation, a melting pot of various races like dwarf and elves. The Edgar family ruled over a vast territory with fertile fields, a grand castle, and a population of over 1 million. While pouring tea in a cup, he explains, as a noble, Ren had everything he wanted, adding he had a personal maid. But every time he looked in the mirror, he saw Yan's face, reminding him of his past life, and reflected if this is some kind of reward. Just then, Ren's maid, Leah, told him his father wanted to see him. In the study, his father, Aline, reviewed reports. The butler announced his arrived. Ren greeted him with courtesy. Duke Eldarion asked Ren if he knew why he was called. Ren replied softly that he didn't know. Eldarion explained that it was customary for a noble of Ren's age to take charge of a territory, but Rain is puzzled and asked about it. The Duke sighs at his son's cluelessness. Rising from his chair, Eldarion pointed to a large map and said the land Ren would oversee was in the northwest. The lack of mages has made food supply a big problem. Ren's father spoke seriously about how their territory is stable for now, but the future of the Coral Empire is uncertain. Ren agreed with his father's view. The royal family's decline and the broken political system had led to a divided empire. Lords were always fighting and scheming, making things worse over time. Since his reincarnation, Ren had felt care and affection he never knew before. This new love made him determined to protect those who cared for him. Seeing his son deep in thought, Aline worried if he was putting too much pressure on Ren. To ease the tension, he reminded Ren that he had his older brother, sister, and father to support him. Ren then asked if solving the food supply issue would make their territory safer. Aline smiled at Ren's enthusiasm but explained that fixing the food problem needed careful planning and time. Ren, however, thinks about his futuristic knowledge of human industrialization, was confident, and declared he would take on the responsibility of solving the food crisis. Ren's journey to his new land began in Azazlan City, a remote area full of potential but also many challenges. To the north, it bordered the land of Grand Duke Ryan, Ren's sworn enemy. To the west were the mysterious lands of the elves, and to the south lay the vast, unexplored ocean. This strategic location had made it a frequent battleground, leaving the fertile lands barren, the population sparse, and the resources drained. As Ren traveled to Azazlan City in a carriage, he studied the documents about his new domain. Leah, his big-chested loyal maid, watched him closely, worry written on her face. Rin knew that rebuilding the land would require increasing the population because a strong workforce was essential for progress. The task was daunting, but Rin believed in his ability to succeed. He wasn't starting with nothing. He had a special skill called Human Resource Scan, which allowed him to find talented individuals easily. He had already tested the skill on his family and understood the standards of talent in this world. His first goal in Aisland City was clear: find exceptional people to help restore the territory. Meanwhile, Leah remembered the Duke's instructions to support Ren and ensure he didn't create chaos. She silently hoped Ren wouldn't mess things up in Aisland City. Silently, she prayed that Ren wouldn't make a mess of things in Aisland City. In the city lord's residence, tension filled the air. An anxious man reported that the Duke's youngest son, Ren, would arrive soon. The lord suggested taking action before Ren got there, but a masked man dismissed the idea calmly. He ordered everyone to wait and not touch Ren for now, though his calmness hid a simmering anger. The lord, a blonde-haired man, nervously fretted over his falsified financial records and stolen taxes. The masked man laughed, mocking Rin as a clueless playboy who wouldn't notice the deception. All they needed to do was give Rin irrelevant documents when he arrived. The blonde-haired man reluctantly obeyed and went to prepare for Ren's arrival. However, the masked man mentally revealed the Darien will pay for his crimes. As Ren's carriage neared Island City, he looked out at the barren fields and abandoned farms. His face grew serious as he studied the land. He asked Leah for a map and examined the area carefully. His attention lingered on a river to the west and the harbor to the south. An idea struck him. Dredging the river and building a canal to connect it to the sea could revitalize the land. Ren's thoughts were interrupted by a desperate cry. He saw a young girl kneeling on the ground, clutching the leg of a man who seemed to be her father. The man was heading to a gambling den, but the girl begged him not to gamble away their last bit of money, which was meant for her mother's medical treatment. Tears streamed down her face as she explained that losing the money would doom her sick mother. The man, consumed by greed, yelled at the girl to let go. When she refused, he raised his hand to strike her in anger. Before the blow could land, Ren stepped in. With a swift punch, he knocked the man to the ground. Anger burned in Ren's eyes, though he winced immediately. This was the first time he had ever thrown a punch. Leah rushed to his side, worried. She scolded him lightly, saying that next time he wanted to hit someone, he should warn her so she could bring protective gear. Ren calmly remarks, saying the punch had been a spur-of-the-moment decision. As Ren approached the man, he instructed Leah to check on the girl. The gambler, still holding his face, looked up at Ren in shock. Ren's gaze was cold and full of contempt. He scolded the man for gambling away money meant for his family, and for raising a hand against his own daughter. The gambler tried to defend himself, asking who Ren was to interfere. Ren stepped closer, his presence intimidating, and warned the man that if he ever went near a gambling den again, the consequences would be severe. Ren's threatening tone frightened the man, who quickly promised to stay away from gambling and fled. Ren, satisfied with how he handled the situation, turned his focus back to helping the young girl and her family. Ren turned back to the girl, who stood frozen in shock. Concerned, he asked if she was okay and used his system to check her condition. The girl, Lillian, bowed her head in gratitude and thanked him profusely. She explained that losing the money would have meant losing the chance to save her mother's life. As Ren looked at her stats on the system screen, he noticed that while most were ordinary, one unique attribute stood out: her potential in agriculture and harvesting. Recognizing this hidden talent, Ren decided to recruit her to help restore the land. Ren smiled warmly at Lillian, guessing that she was heading into the city to find a doctor for her mother. He invited her to join his group since they were traveling to the city as well. Lillian hesitated, worried about dirtying his carriage, but Ren reassured her with a calm smile. He told her a carriage was just a means of transport made of wood, and there was no need to worry about it being clean or dirty. He also mentioned that he had a few questions for her. Suddenly, Ren's tone grew serious as he asked why a gambling den existed in such a poor area. He recalled the region's recent hardships. Soldiers sent by Grand Duke Ryan had attacked last fall, causing many casualties, and severe floods in the spring had devastated the land. The streets of Island City showed the impact of these events, with beggars lining the roads and despair everywhere. Walking through the ruined streets, Ren decided that conducting a population census was essential to assess the remaining workforce. However, his first priority was to visit the city lord's manor to review the reserve funds and figure out what could be used for rebuilding the land. Ren asked Lillian for the location of the manor, the lord estate. But before she could answer, a shout interrupted them. A blonde-haired man on horseback galloped recklessly down the street, yelling at people to get out of his way. The man showed no concern for the chaos he caused. Leah acted quickly, pulling Ren aside to avoid the charging horse just in time. The rider disappeared into the distance without a second thought. Leah glared after him angrily, her protective instincts in overdrive. To her, anyone who dared harm Ren deserved severe punishment. Ren struggled to breathe as Leah's grip tightened, and he gently got her attention. Realizing what she was doing, Leah quickly let go and apologized, checking if he was okay. Ren reassured her with a smile and thanked her for her quick reaction. Ren then turned to Lillian and asked if she recognized the rider. Trembling, she explained that he was the young master of the Edwin family, who owned all the gambling dens in Island City. Ren's expression changed to one of interest. If the Edwin family was wealthy, it might be an opportunity to fund his plans. He asked Lillian to take him to one of the gambling dens. Lillian tried to dissuade him, worried he might lose all his money, but Ren confidently assured her that the gambling den wouldn't be taking anything from him. Before departing, she, on the other hand, couldn't help but wonder how powerful Rain was. Soon, Ren arrived at the gambling den, a grand building that stood in stark contrast to the poverty around it. Guards stood at the entrance, but Ren approached confidently. A smile crossed his face as he thought of his plans. He would take everything from this place to fund his projects. Inside, the den was chaotic, filled with gamblers desperate to win back their losses or celebrate small victories. Ren observed the scene critically, realizing that as long as this place existed, the people of Island City would lack the motivation to work hard. Leah whispered to Ren that their soldiers had surrounded the den and asked if they should proceed. Ren told her to wait. He wanted to capture an even bigger target. A staff member approached Ren with a polite smile, asking what game he wanted to play. Ren smiled back, pretending to be inexperienced, and asked for a simple game. The attendant suggested a dice game and handed Ren 2 complimentary chips, claiming they were free. Ren accepted them, seemingly pleased. As the game began, Ren tossed the chips, casually landing on the small section. Immediately, both staff exchanged knowing glares. The dice rolled and landed on 6 and 6. Big. The attendant feigned sympathy and consoled Ren, saying he was close to winning. Ren played his role perfectly, expressing surprise at how quickly the game ended. He remarked that it wasn't very entertaining and turned to leave. However, the attendant blocked his way, his polite demeanor gone. He mockingly demanded payment for the chips Ren had used. Ren frowned and asked when he had agreed to owe anything. The attendant smugly explained that the chips were loans, not gifts, and claimed Ren now owed 250 gold coins due to fees and interest, leaving Rain questioning his previous statement. He even suggested that if Ren couldn't pay, he could leave Leah as collateral. Lillian, outraged by the scam, spoke up, accusing the attendant of lying. She explained to Ren that the chips were worth no more than a silver coin each. Furious, the attendant shouted for the guards to beat her, preventing her from ruining the deal. But before he could finish, Ren punched him, sending him flying into a table. Calmly adjusting his clothes, Ren remarked that someone like the attendant had no right to speak. The casino erupted into chaos as gamblers scrambled to grab the scattered chips. Ren sighed, muttering that none of these people were useful. Suddenly, a commanding voice demanded to know who was causing trouble. It was the same man Ren had encountered on horseback earlier, the young master of the Elwyn family. Ren's lips curled into a smile. He had finally caught the bigger fish. The gamblers immediately sensed danger. The young master silenced the chaos instantly, and ordered his guards to beat those causing trouble. The guards acted mercilessly, ignoring the cries of the gamblers. The crowd watched in fear, too scared to intervene. Lillian, holding Leah's arm, blames herself for leading Ren to the den, and feeling worried for causing trouble. She recalled how Ren had taken her mother to the hospital, and ensured she received treatment. That memory filled her with determination. Summoning her courage, Lillian stepped forward and declared she wouldn't let the young master scam her big brother. Her boldness shocked everyone, and murmurs spread through the crowd. The young master glared at her angrily, but Lillian stood her ground, accusing him of exploiting families through the casino. Seething with anger, the young master lunged at her, but before he could harm her, Ren intercepted him. Grabbing the man's arm, Ren activated his system skill to assess his stats. The results showed low attributes, a mere 5 loyalty points, and a personality full of cruelty and bloodlust. Ren recognized the Edwin family as a possible threat, capable of betrayal at any moment. Vaserlo, blocked by Ren, glared angrily and accused him of disrespecting the casino's rules. Ren released his grip calmly and responded that he understood the rules perfectly. In this world, strength made the rules, and the strong had the power. Vaserlo sneered arrogantly, convinced he was the strongest in the city. He mocked Ren, asking why he dared to oppose him and if he even knew who he was. Ren stayed composed, replying confidently that he didn't need to know who Vaserlo was. What mattered was that his own strength dictated the outcome, as his fist was bigger and his word was the law. With that, Ren clapped his hands, signaling his soldiers to storm into the casino. Before we can find out what happened, the scene shifted to a grand banquet held in Ren's honor. The city's most prominent and influential figures had gathered, each with their own hidden agendas. Among them was Lucas, the head of a prestigious family. Lucas planned to work with the city lord to teach Ren a lesson. He had intended to use Vaserlo to build a connection with Ren that he could later manipulate, but Vaserlo's absence puzzled him. Frustrated, Lucas realized he couldn't rely solely on the city lord's incompetence, and needed to adjust his plans. As murmurs filled the banquet, the atmosphere changed instantly, becoming tense and silent. Ren entered, his presence commanding attention, and the guests quickly adjusted their behavior. The head of the Raven family hurried forward to introduce himself and offer a gift. Another guest, the head of the Jose family, eagerly introduced his daughter, hoping to gain favor. Ren silenced the room with a sharp glance and declared that the banquet would now begin. He gestured for his attendants to bring in a large blueprint, which immediately caught everyone's attention. Ren explained that the blueprint was a design for a dam he had sketched earlier that day. Skilled craftsmen would be involved in its construction to finalize the details. The attendees exchanged confused glances. Someone asked what a dam was, speculating if it was a tool for fishing. Ren called for silence and instructed Leah to display a regional map. With the room quiet, he explained that his survey of Island City had revealed the cause of the annual flooding, a poorly managed canal in the north. Building a dam there would control the water flow, providing irrigation during dry seasons and preventing floods during rainy seasons. Lucas listened intently, impressed by the ingenuity of the plan. He realized that if successful, the dam could greatly improve the city's food production. For the first time, he acknowledged Ren's sharp and innovative mind. An older man in the audience asked how this concerned them, prompting Ren to calmly explain that he needed their investments to fund the dam's construction. This shocked the crowd, leading to grumbles and protests. Many claimed to be too poor to contribute. Lucas remained silent, thinking Ren was naive to expect these opportunists to invest willingly. However, Ren wasn't as naive as they thought. Smiling, he assured them there was no need to pretend to be poor. He had a plan to make everyone rich. Ren revealed that earlier that day, he had seized a casino and confiscated nearly 50,000 gold coins. He hinted that several other casinos in Island City could face the same fate. The attendees were stunned, some worried about losing their shares in casino profits, while others hoped their investments were safe. It became clear that the largest casino belonged to Lord Andrin, making him a likely powerful enemy. Lucas, his calm facade hiding inner anger, stepped forward to confront Ren. He accused Ren of acting unlawfully by shutting down a legitimate business. Lucas emphasized that the laws of the Coral Empire couldn't be ignored and warned Ren of the consequences. Other nobles quickly joined in, echoing Lucas's words. They accused Ren of overstepping his authority and defended the casinos as legitimate businesses. Ren, unfazed, remained calm. He pointed out that when he asked for investments, they claimed poverty. But now, they were suddenly worried about profits. He accused them of being complicit in the casino's corruption and warned that this was their last chance to save their reputations, or he would act personally. At his command, soldiers stepped forward, a stark reminder of his authority. Lucas insisted that the Grand Duke would never condone Ren's reckless actions. Others pleaded with Ren to reconsider, urging restraint. Ren smiled, his plan unfolding perfectly. With authority, he announced that he would gladly discuss the law with them. Calmly, he ordered the soldiers to bring in witnesses to clarify the situation. 2 men, captured at the casino, were dragged into the room. Lucas stood among the nobles, immediately recognized them as Vaserlo's men. Their appearance left him uneasy, suspecting something had happened to his son. The men, bound and gagged, were unable to speak. Ren turned to Lucas and asked if he recognized them. Lucas, maintaining a neutral expression, denied any knowledge of the men. Ren smiled knowingly, reassuring Lucas not to be so tense. He explained that the men had attempted to assassinate him the previous day. Ren added that they claimed to control Island City and hinted at having a powerful backer. Lucas worked to keep his composure, but sweat formed on his brow as he grew more uneasy. Ren ordered the men to be untied, suggesting the guests identify them. The nobles exchanged nervous glances, many recognizing the men as Viserlo's attendants. Fear spread through the room. Lucas, realizing the gravity of the situation and the potential of the men running his family, acted quickly. He grabbed a dagger from the table and ended both men, denouncing them as criminals who dared attack the Duke's son. The room fell silent in shock. Lucas turned to Ren, feigning shame, and apologized for acting out of anger. Ren, expecting this move, smiled knowingly and praised Lucas for his decisive action. Lucas, masking his relief, thanked Ren for the compliment, claiming he only did what was necessary. Ren wasn't done. Calmly, he ordered his soldiers to bring out the mastermind behind the events. The command made Lucas tense. Viserlo, bound and unaware of the situation, was dragged into the room. As soon as he entered, Viserlo shouted angrily at the soldiers to untie him, boasting about his father's influence and threatening everyone present. Lucas's confident expression vanished when he saw his son, Viserlo. Any arrogance disappeared as he understood why his son had missed the banquet. Viserlo, seeing his two attendants lying lifeless on the floor, flew into a rage. He insulted Ren and threatened him with torture once he was released. Ren, unaffected by his outburst, laughed lightly and remarked that not only did Viserlo want to kill him, but he also seemed eager to make him suffer. Viserlo continued ranting, boasting that no one in Island City dared to oppose him, and that Ren's death was certain. Our hero can't hold his laughter anymore. He turned to Lucas and asked if he agreed with his son's claims. Viserlo, still unaware of Ren's true identity, laughed and mocked him further. Just as Viserlo was about to reveal his father's identity, Lucas sharply interrupted him. Desperate, Lucas scolded Viserlo, calling him a foolish son. He ordered him to kneel before Ren, and when his son hesitated, Lucas forced him to his knees, pleading for Ren's mercy. He begged for forgiveness and even offered all his possessions in exchange for sparing Viserlo's life. It was only then that Viserlo realized his mistake. He remembered his father's instructions to befriend the Duke's son. Fear overtook him as he asked who Ren was. Ren's face remained cold as he told Viserlo that his soldiers and authority were enough proof of his status. Trembling, Viserlo apologized and promised never to act so recklessly again. Lucas joined in, swearing the Edwin family's loyalty to Ren. Our boy requested him to hand over all their illegally obtained assets. He agreed to accept the assets and relieved to have been saved. But as Lucas glanced at the city lord Eldrick, he realized his own influence had greatly diminished. Knowing he had no other option, Lucas informed Ren about a plot against the Duke. He revealed that Lord Eldrick had been conspiring with outside forces to betray the city. The revelation shocked the room. All eyes turned to Eldrick, who froze in fear. Lucas was about to elaborate further when Ren suddenly interrupted him. Ren accused Lucas of slandering Eldrick and declared that he had been lenient enough. He ordered his guards to drag Lucas and his son out of the room for execution. Lucas was stunned and terrified, unable to understand Ren's sudden change in behavior. Eldrick, relieved by Ren's response, stepped forward to pledge his loyalty. He praised Ren for his wisdom and vowed unwavering support. Ren, smiling, assured Eldrick that he trusted him completely. However, Ren secretly used his system to analyze Eldrick's attributes. Among the ordinary stats, he discovered Eldrick had a greed trait and a loyalty level of only 15. Ren decided that, like Lucas, Eldrick's time would come, but for now, he would use Eldrick's resources to further his plans. After the banquet ended, Ren worked late into the night. The nobles had contributed over 100,000 gold coins, equivalent to 2 years of taxes collected from Island City. Yet Ren wasn't satisfied with the amount. As he worked, our milk factory friend entered the room with a cup of tea. She noticed the displeasure on Ren's face. Ren took the tea and bitterly questioned how wealthy the nobles truly were. Leah didn't respond to his comment but instead asked about Lucas's revelation during the banquet. She wondered what Ren planned to do if Eldrick truly intended to betray them, as it would put him in great danger. Ren reassured her, asking her to remain calm. He admitted he was certain of Eldrick's betrayal but explained that it wasn't the right time to act. When Leah asked why, Ren explained that Eldrick's full network of influence in Island was still unknown. Acting too soon would cause unnecessary chaos. For now, it was better to let Eldrick think Ren was an ignorant young lord, unaware of the threats surrounding him. The next morning, Eldrick met with Guild Master Malcolm at the Mages Guild. He handed Malcolm a piece of paper, and after reading it, Malcolm's face twisted with fury. Slamming the paper down, Malcolm called the situation absurd. Eldrick, calm and calculating, told Malcolm not to overreact. He dismissed Rin as a young, eager noble trying to prove himself to the Grand Duke. But Malcolm wasn't appeased. He reminded Eldrick that even the Grand Duke spoke respectfully to the Mages Guild. Eldrick, inwardly pleased, saw this as the perfect chance to win the Guild's favor. As Malcolm stormed off with the paper, vowing to confront Rin, Eldrick immediately tells him to wait. But he celebrated silently, confident that Rin would soon find himself isolated. Meanwhile, Rin was in his study, sketching plans for a hydraulic construction project. The work reminded him of the struggles he had endured in his previous life. Leah entered to inform him of an unexpected visitor. Guild Master Malcolm had arrived and demanded to see him. Surprised, Ren immediately went to meet him. The moment Ren entered, Malcolm angrily shows a recruitment notice. He accused Ren of insulting the Mages Guild. Ren, confused, asked for clarification. Malcolm pointed to the notice, which stated that no mages, elderly, or disabled individuals would be hired for the project. He demanded to know why Ren had issued such a notice. Ren examined the paper and calmly explained that it was for the dam construction project. He didn't see how the notice insulted the guild. Malcolm, still fuming, argued that excluding mages was disrespectful to the guild and its members. Ren was surprised that mages were competing for manual labor jobs but remained calm. Malcolm warned Ren that unless he retracted the notice, all mages in the guild would refuse to serve him. Ren frowned and silently used his system to analyze Malcolm's stats. The system revealed that Malcolm's loyalty level was 82, and his personality was inquisitive and straightforward. Ren concluded that Malcolm had been manipulated. Smiling, Ren patiently explained 3 key points. First, mages had limited mana and could only perform a small amount of work each day, making them unsuitable for large-scale construction. Second, their salaries were equal to those of 10 common laborers, making them too expensive. Third, as a noble, Ren felt it was his duty to prioritize the welfare of ordinary people who lacked the guild's support. Malcolm remained unconvinced and argued that magic was revered in their world. He insisted that those without magic deserved to be beneath the feet of mages. Ren, irritated, admitted that while this might be true, he intended to change it. Starting in Island, he would prove that mages were no different from ordinary humans. Deeply insulted, Malcolm gave Ren an ultimatum: retract the statement or face the consequences of angering the Mages Guild. Ren's expression turned cold as he reminded Malcolm to watch his tone. Leah, standing nearby, pressed a knife to Malcolm's throat. Malcolm froze in terror as Ren calmly suggested testing the law with a small cut to see which side the court would favor. Trembling, Malcolm quickly apologized and begged for forgiveness. Noticing that Malcolm's loyalty hadn't decreased, Ren realized the guild master had acted out of ignorance rather than malice. Deciding not to escalate, Ren instructed Leah to escort Malcolm out. Malcolm thanked Ren and hurriedly left. As Malcolm departed, Ren's system notified him that he had completed a beginner task, using the investigation function on 10 individuals. Ren received a reward and a new task: to train 5 characters with high stats. Pleased with his progress, Ren decided to review his rewards later. Outside the estate, Eldrick waited for Malcolm. Seeing him, Eldrick rushed over, pretending to be concerned. He asked how the meeting had gone. Malcolm, still humiliated, sighed and admitted that Ren had refused to listen and had even thrown him out. Frustrated but quick to recover, Eldrick reassured Malcolm that he had another plan, one that would force Ren to change his mind and make him respect the Mages Guild after all. Eldrick quickly came up with another idea. He suggested that Malcolm manipulate the townsfolk into refusing to work for Ren, thinking this would force Ren to rely on Malcolm for help. However, Malcolm immediately dismissed the idea, pointing out that Ren had offered such good working conditions that the townsfolk were unlikely to refuse. Undeterred, Eldrick proposed a different strategy. He suggested that if the workers appeared lazy and idle, Ren would eventually lose faith in the commoners. Malcolm hesitated, explaining that his problem was only with Ren refusing to hire mages, not the commoners themselves. But after more pressure from Eldrick, he explains how the people in the city are good for nothing, blaming them for their situation. He questions if such people could build a dam. Malcolm reluctantly agreed to give the plan a try. Meanwhile, Ren's recruitment notice was posted in the town square. attracting a large crowd. The townsfolk gathered, curious about the new lord's plans and the call for workers. As they read the notice, many were shocked. The job offered an 8-hour workday, 9 to 5, 3 meals daily, and a wage of 10 coins per day. A young man in the crowd voiced his doubts, questioning why the Lord was being so generous. Others agreed, suspecting a trick. Memories of being deceived by nobles in the past made many suspicious. Some even feared it might be dangerous work that could cost them their lives. At that moment, Lillian stepped forward. Her voice was firm as she defended Ren, saying he genuinely wanted to improve their lives. But the crowd laughed, mocking her for trusting a noble. Even her own father joined in, accusing her of being in love with Ren. Ignoring the ridicule, Lillian announced she would register for the dam project. The recruiter, a young man managing the registrations, calmly told her father he was welcome to work but said Lillian herself could not join. Surprised, Leland demanded to know why. The recruiter explained that Ren had strict rules against hiring anyone under 18. He emphasized that breaking this rule without Ren's approval could result in severe punishment. Handing Lillian's father a form, the recruiter reiterated the terms: 3 meals a day, an 8-hour workday, and 10 coins per day. Disappointed but understanding, Lillian encouraged her father to work hard and avoid being lazy. Her father, touched, promised her he wouldn't gamble again and vowed not to let Ren down. He also reminded her to stay home and take care of her ill mother. Before they left, the recruiter called out, asking them to stop. Surprised, Lillian's father turned back, thinking there might be an issue. The recruiter, looking concerned, asked about his wife's illness. Lillian's father confirmed she couldn't work due to her condition. Smiling kindly, the recruiter reassured him that he wasn't asking her to work. Instead, he explained that Ren had arranged temporary housing for workers' families during the dam's construction. Families could stay in dormitories and return to their homes after the project ended. Moved by Ren's generosity, Lillian's father dropped to his knees, overcome with gratitude. The recruiter quickly helped him up, insisting there was no need for such a gesture. He even offered to show them the dormitories so they could pick their accommodations. The townsfolk watching this exchange were stunned. Realizing Ren's promises were genuine, they rushed to register, eager for the opportunity. The square descended into chaos as people scrambled to sign up for work. Hey, no pushing. Meanwhile, Ren was in his office, reviewing updates from the system. Suddenly, a notification appeared. Congratulations! You have received the lithium battery blueprint from the newbie gift pack. Instead of feeling excited, Ren sighed in frustration. Without a generator, the blueprint was useless. Muttering to himself, he wondered if the system expected him to summon lightning to make it work. After venting, he calmed down and began thinking about his next task: training 5 individuals with high stats. Ren considered training Leah but realized through the system that she had already reached her potential. He decided to look for talented individuals in the city instead. As he planned his next steps, Leah knocked on the door. She informed him that Lillian had come to see him with urgent news. Granting her entry, Ren listened as Lillian explained the problem, leaving in surprise. At the construction site, the workers were too tired to work. Leland initially thought they were lazy, but her father explained that everyone had woken up feeling unusually fatigued. It wasn't just 1 or 2 people, all the workers were affected. Some workers suggested they needed a day off to recover, while others believed their bodies weren't used to hard labor after long periods of inactivity. Lillian, however, dismissed these excuses and accused them of being lazy. When her efforts to motivate them failed, she decided to bring the issue to Ren. Hearing this, Ren immediately went to the site. Observing the workers, he saw their lethargy was real. Using the system's abilities, he analyzed their stats and discovered something alarming. All the workers were under a curse. Turning to Leland, he calmly explained that they are not sick but have been cursed. Ren surveyed the site, thinking about his next move. He decided to test his newly acquired skill, geological survey, which allowed him to analyze the area for minerals, water sources, and other geological features. The system scanned a 10-kilometer radius and presented the results. While it didn't reveal valuable resources like metals or oil, something unusual caught Ren's attention. Acting on instinct, he asked Lillian's father to help him dig at a specific spot. Eager to assist, Leland's father agreed. After digging about a meter deep, they unearthed a strange black stone. Ren crouched to examine it, sensing faint magical energy. Leah, surprised, admitted she hadn't detected the energy herself. Ren instructed the group to carefully store the stone and asked Leah how curses were usually handled. Leah explained that priests or high-ranking mages from the Mage Association typically resolved curses. Ren frowned, suspecting the Mage Association's involvement. He decided to take Lilan and her father to the local church for help. Lillian worriedly asked Ren if her father was truly cursed. Ren reassured her and promised to find and punish whoever was behind the curse. The group quickly headed to the church, where they were greeted by a beautiful priestess. She welcomed Ren warmly, maintaining a calm and composed demeanor. Ren, ever cautious, used his system to check her loyalty before entrusting her with the task. The system revealed her stats: 95% loyalty, her race identified as an elf, and her actual age as around 257 years, though she looked no older than 24. Surprised that she wasn't human, Ren felt reassured by her high loyalty. Introducing herself, the priestess said her name was Auriria and that she was the holy maiden of the church. She politely asked why they had come. Pointing to Lillian's father, Ren explained that the man appeared to be cursed and asked Auriria for her help. Auriria confidently nodded and began examining him. Closing her eyes for a moment, she reopened them with a golden glow, scanning him intently. After a moment, she confirmed that he was indeed cursed and began the treatment. She summoned a glowing sphere of light and directed it into the man's body, instantly expelling the dark energy. Lillian's father immediately felt better and thanked Ren deeply, promising to return to work right away. Smiling, Ren advised him to rest and ensure the curse was completely lifted before resuming work. Ren then retrieved a box containing the black crystal they had found and asked Auriria for her opinion. The saintess carefully examined the crystal and identified it as a magical crystal filled with energy, often used to cast curses. However, she explained that this particular curse seemed more like a prank meant to cause fatigue rather than serious harm. Ren felt uneasy hearing this. He asked Auriria if such crystals were hard to make. She replied that for a skilled mage, creating one crystal a day was easy, and they could scatter them across the construction site. Ren's expression darkened as he realized this was a deliberate act, and wondered if she knows about his project. She complimented the impact of Ren's project, noting how it had reduced the number of people seeking help from the church, so how wouldn't she know? Certain now about the culprit, Ren resolved to take action. Ren asked Auriria if she could lift the curse over the entire site. Regretfully, she explained that it wasn't possible. Removing the crystals one by one would take too much time and delay the project. Auriria then mentioned someone who might be able to help but warned Ren that this person was eccentric. She provided an address, and Ren decided to check it out. Ren and Leah arrived at a large mansion Auriria had directed them to. It was the home of Selena, the former president of the Mage Association. Ren knocked on the door firmly, determined. Suddenly, Leah sensed danger and quickly pulled Ren aside. A massive explosion erupted from the upper floor of the mansion, sending smoke and debris flying. Ren, startled, wonders what was going on. A stunning woman emerged from the smoke, clearly frustrated, muttering about her failed experiment and threatening to blow up the entire city if necessary to succeed. Inside, Ren calmly explained the situation to Selena and asked for her assistance. Selena, however, outright refused, saying she was busy working on a new magical device. Curious, Ren asked her to explain, wondering if she was talking about something like a magic wand. Selena sneered at the idea, mocking Ren's lack of understanding. Leah, cold and composed, warned Selena to speak respectfully to Ren. Annoyed, Selena acknowledged Leah's impressive magical power and suggested she stay as her assistant. In return, Selena promised to help Ren once her research succeeded. Leah's voice turned sharp as she offered to teach Selena some manners, lightning crackling around her in warning. Sensing the tension, Ren stepped in to calm things down. He reminded Leah that they were there for help, not to start trouble. Looking around Selena's workspace, Ren noticed various scattered items and asked if she was creating something. Selena confirmed they were magical devices but noted they were failed experiments. She explained that she was trying to create a device to store the lightning element magic within her body. Ren, amazed by the concept, likened it to storing electrical energy. Selena confirmed his interpretation and mentioned that her experiments kept failing because the devices couldn't handle her power. Ren made an offer. He would help her create the device if she assisted him in dealing with the Mages Guild. However, Selena doubted his abilities, pointing out that she doesn't have time for nonsense. But our boy is serious, mentioning he will personally create the device in exchange for her help in dealing with the Mages Guild. Still a bit uncertain, she agrees, stating her condition. If Ren succeeded, she would not only help him with Malcolm but also ensure the guild followed his commands. If he failed, she wouldn't hesitate to punish him. Ren got to work. He used the system's blueprint to help her assemble a lithium battery pack. While realizing his problem of electricity, he decided to use mages as a substitute for a human generator. The process intrigued Selena, but she remained skeptical. Without a hydraulic generator to test the device, they had to rely on Selena's magic as a power source. Selena hesitated but eventually channeled her magic into the battery. To her surprise, the device absorbed her energy without any issues. Rain teasingly encourages her to give it her all. Infuriated, she unleashed her full power, but even then, the battery held steady. Selena was speechless at how well the device worked. Ren inspects the battery. After checking the charge, Ren saw that the battery was at 87% capacity. Internally, he marveled at Selena's strength, realizing she had charged the battery enough to power an electric car for thousands of kilometers. Thinking to himself that he has found a convenient power bank, Selena, now curious, asked if Rain understands and knows how to use lightning magic. Our boy replies that he can and that he will make it possible for everyone in the city to use magic. However, she is a bit skeptical, remarking if he thinks everyone can learn magic easily. Rain, with his arms crossed, points out that he has devices more powerful than the battery and, with her help, he will show her a world where everyone can use magic. Though baffled, Selena agreed to continue working with him, curious about the possibilities Ren promised to reveal. The next day at the Mages Guild, Malcolm was leisurely reading a book, confident that Ren would soon come begging for his help. His calm was interrupted when Selena arrived suddenly. Seeing her, Malcolm froze in shock. The former president of the Mages Guild was the last person he expected to see. Stammering, he greeted her cautiously, unsure why she was there. Selena's voice rose in anger, as she accused Malcolm of daring to challenge the authority of the Grand Duke's household. Her sharp words cut through the air as she questioned whether he was planning a rebellion. Malcolm, visibly shaken, stammered nervously, denying any such intentions. He assured Selena he would never harbor such dangerous thoughts. Unconvinced, Selena grabbed Malcolm by the collar, her patience wearing thin. She demanded the truth, insisting he confess what he had done at Ren's construction site. Trembling, Malcolm quickly relented. He admitted to summoning the guild's mages and inciting their anger by claiming Ren had disrespected them. He confessed to instructing the mages to craft curse-infused crystals, and using teleportation magic to plant them underground at the construction site. The scheme was meant to exhaust the workers, hoping Ren would blame them for laziness. Malcolm's ultimate goal was to force Ren to apologize and seek closer cooperation with the Mages Guild. Selena listened with disbelief and frustration. Shaking her head, she called Malcolm a fool, pointing out that he had been manipulated. When Malcolm, still confused, asked who had used him, Selena dismissed his question. Instead, she ordered him to recall every mage involved in the sabotage immediately. Malcolm nodded hastily and rushed to obey her command. Once Malcolm was gone, Selena pulled out a talisman to contact Ren. She informed him that she had resolved the issue with the Mages Guild. Ren expressed his gratitude, thanking her for her help. Curious, Selena asked if he needed assistance dealing with Eldrick, offering to make him disappear without a trace. Ren quickly declined, waving his hand reflexively. He explained that Eldrick wasn't a major concern and that he still needed him to lure out a bigger threat. Accepting Ren's decision, Selena agreed not to interfere. Her tone shifted to excitement as she brought up the new inventions Ren had mentioned. She pressed him for details, asking when they would be ready and insisting he call her when he started working on them. Ren reassured her he would keep her informed but emphasized that the guild's mages needed to finish charging the battery clusters first. The next day, at the city lord's residence, Eldrick met with a mysterious man cloaked in shadows. Eldrick, visibly worried, reported that Ren had already taken control of the Mages Guild and nervously asked for guidance. The mysterious man, however, remained calm and dismissive, stating that the Mages Guild posed no real threat aside from Selena. He redirected Eldrick's attention to Ren's dam project, warning that if the dam succeeded, it could revitalize the people of Etherland City, a scenario they couldn't allow. Eldrick assured the man he had already set traps for Ren and revealed another plan. He intended to pressure the nobles in charge of food supplies to raise prices, undermining Ren's efforts. When the mysterious man expressed doubt about the nobles' loyalty, Eldrick confidently explained that while the nobles might betray him, they would never betray their financial interests. Flicking a gold coin into the air with a smirk, Eldrick declared that Ren's funds wouldn't last until the dam's completion. As the coin landed on the table, the mysterious man dissolved into thin air. Meanwhile, in the bustling market, Lillian was buying supplies for the construction site when a shopkeeper rudely chased her away. His tone was condescending as he told her to leave if she couldn't afford the goods. Lillian, frustrated, pointed out the absurd price hike. Just the day before, 2 bags of grain cost 1 gold coin, but now 1 bag alone was priced at 2 gold coins. The shopkeeper arrogantly stated he could set whatever prices he wanted. He mocked her inability to pay. Determined to complete her task, Lillian accused the merchants of profiteering and warned them of Ren's potential wrath. The shopkeeper sneered, dismissing her threat, claiming his business was honest and that Ren had no grounds to interfere. His arrogance only deepened the crowd's frustration. At the church, Auriria was equally furious about the rampant price gouging. Food prices had tripled in just 3 days, leaving her with inadequate grain to sustain the people through the winter. Handing a pouch of coins to her assistant, Illyria, she instructed her to buy whatever supplies she could, promising to figure out the rest later. Illyria hesitated, surprised by the unusually large sum, but Auriria urged her to follow orders without question. Before Illyria could act, Leah appeared, snatching the pouch with lightning speed and handing it to Ren. Calm but determined, Ren suggested a collaboration. He proposed working together on a larger plan to address the root of the crisis and prevent further exploitation by the merchants. Auriria, suspicious, questioned what kind of cooperation he had in mind. Ren smiled at her guarded demeanor, telling her to relax. He casually mentioned he knew she was an elf. Auriria, though deeply concerned that Ren had discovered her true identity, maintained her composure and denied it. Ren, unfazed, reassured her he held no malicious intentions toward her or her kind. Redirecting the conversation, Auriria asked again about his plan. Ren gestured to sacks of food nearby and explained he wanted to resolve the city's food supply crisis. While Auriria respected Ren's determination, she doubted his ability to tackle such a deeply entrenched problem. Our boy expressed interest. She explained that food supplies in Ireland were controlled by 4 powerful families who tightly regulated prices. Their influence was unshakable. She reminded Ren that although he had intimidated them at the recent banquet, they were cunning and would recover their losses. Ren, curious about Auriria's knowledge of the city, asked how she knew so much. Auriria admitted she had lived in the city for over 120 years and understood its complexities well. She points out that if our MC hadn't acted the way he did at the previous banquet, exciting the Edwin family, there might have been room for negotiations. She worriedly added that due to war and natural disasters, food was already scarce, and if prices remained high, her tribe would struggle to survive the winter. Ren, resolute, promised Auriria that within 2 weeks, food prices would plummet to even lower levels than before the hikes. At the mansion of Augustus Klein, head of the Klein family, a celebratory gathering was underway. Augustus expressed his gratitude to them for his support, acknowledging their alliance had brought significant profits. Others in the room echoed their thanks, raising their glasses to toast their success. Their celebration was interrupted by a servant announcing that Ren had invited them to a banquet at his mansion. One man, startled by the news, nervously speculated whether Ren was planning to punish them. Augustus turned to his companions and asked for their opinions on what they should do next. Calm and calculating, he reassured them that there was no need to worry. Augustus explained that their trade in food supplies was entirely legal and protected by the system they had carefully built. He emphasized that as long as they didn't openly defy Ren, they wouldn't be in danger. He reminded them of the combined strength of their 4 families, pointing out that not even the king had the authority to interfere with food pricing. This reasoning put the group at ease, and they agreed that their position was secure. Augustus suggested that if Ren tried to pressure them, they could make a small gesture by lowering prices slightly, maybe by 5 copper coins. However, he warned them that any betrayal would result in severe consequences. Feeling reassured, Augustus encouraged the group to prepare for Ren's banquet. Despite their initial confusion, they followed his suggestion to dress in old, tattered clothes to appear humble, leaving the butler in confusion. At Ren's mansion, a servant informed him that Augustus and his guests had arrived. Ren instructed the servant to invite them in and have the kitchen prepare food. When Augustus and the others entered, Ren immediately noticed their efforts to look impoverished, with their luxurious clothing replaced by ragged attire. Amused, Ren thought to himself how poorly they played their roles. Keeping his composure, Ren greeted them warmly, pretending to be surprised. He remarked on how unexpected it was to see the nobleman who controlled the city's food supply looking so destitute. Augustus quickly responded, praising Ren's projects and claiming that they also wanted to contribute to the greater good. Another noble chimed in, saying that under Augustus' leadership, they had donated money to Ren's initiatives and sold food at the lowest possible prices, even taking losses to help the citizens. Leah, observing their shameless lies, felt nothing but disdain. Ren, however, played along, thanking them for their generosity and claiming to be moved by their support. He then explained that he had invited them to discuss his plan for the grain trade. Before Ren could continue, Augustus interrupted, expressing sympathy for Ren's financial difficulties. He insisted that at the current price of 2 gold coins per sack, they were already selling at a loss. The others nodded in agreement. Ren smiled and clarified his intent. He proposed raising the price of food in Island to 4 gold coins per sack starting the next day. His statement left the nobles stunned. Augustus, confused, questioned whether Ren truly meant to increase prices. Ren confirmed calmly and added that he would take a 30% commission on all sales. Augustus, with a bewildered expression, asked if he was hearing correctly. However, Ren repeated himself, stating he would keep a 30% commission. He had initially underestimated Ren, thinking him inexperienced. The nobles exchanged surprised and delighted glances. Now, they believed he was a clever businessman who understood their interests. They regretted not aligning with him earlier. Augustus, while excited, knew they couldn't act without official documentation. Raising prices too high could cause chaos and harm their interests. Politely, he thanked Ren for his understanding and asked when the announcement would be made. Ren, prepared for this, instructed Leah to hand him a document. With a cheerful tone, he informed them that the official notice, stamped with his family seal, would be posted after their meal. As the conversation continued, Ren reminded the nobles to follow his instructions, warning them to learn from the downfall of the Edwin family. Augustus eagerly assured him they wouldn't disappoint. After the banquet, the nobles gathered again at Augustus' residence. Ren's unexpected proposal left them bewildered. Some debated whether to report this development to Eldrick, noting how strange it was for Ren to increase prices instead of lowering them. Augustus dismissed their doubts, calling them fools, stating this a golden opportunity. He reminded them that too much publicity about their scheme could shrink their profits. He assured them Ren was merely using benefits to draw them in. Augustus proposed they immediately buy all the grain from smaller merchants before the announcement, ensuring they controlled the market, adding a huge fortune awaits them. Meanwhile, at Ren's estate, an unexpected guest arrived. Auriria stormed in furious. She accused Ren of siding with corrupt merchants and demanded to know why he had allowed food prices to skyrocket. She declared that she wouldn't stand by while the elf race was exploited. Lillian stepped in, trying to calm her. She assured Auriria that Ren intended to lower prices and urged her to trust him. Still angry, Auriria snapped, accusing Ren of being complicit with the merchants. Lillian maintained her faith in Ren and pleaded with Auriria to believe in his plan. After a tense silence, Auriria turned to Ren, her expression filled with concern. She hesitantly asked if he truly intended to raise food prices. Ren smiled but didn't reveal his strategy, only reassuring her that prices would drop soon. In the worst case, he promised they would fall to their lowest point within 2 weeks. Auriria, unconvinced, felt Ren was being naive. With over 200 years of experience, she argued that prices never dropped after a major spike. Ren, sensing her doubt, grew serious. He posed a rhetorical question. If he put a knife to the nobles' throats, how much would they lower the price? 1 coin? 10 coins? Auriria had no answer but remained skeptical. She argued that raising the price to 4 gold coins was excessive, noting that at 2 gold coins, people were already struggling. Ren calmly explained that whether the price was 2 or 4 gold coins, people would starve either way. The only difference was the timing. This remark made her annoyed. Ren declared that simply lowering food prices by a few coins would accomplish nothing. His true goal was not charity. It was to completely ruin the merchants and strip them of their fortunes. 7 days passed, during which Ren focused on teaching Selena about lithium batteries. Selena was fascinated by their complexity and fully engrossed in learning. Their lessons were suddenly interrupted when Leah entered, announcing that Saintess Auriria had come to visit again. She had been visiting frequently over the past few days, prompting Ren to wonder if she simply had too much free time. Selena, also curious, asked Ren why he had deliberately raised food prices. By now, the price of grain in the city had skyrocketed to nearly 7 gold coins per sack. Ren was surprised by how quickly the prices had risen. But before he could respond, Oriria burst into the room. Oriria immediately scolded Ren, exclaiming that not only the common people but even some nobles could no longer afford food. She demanded to know if he understood how bad the situation had become. Remaining calm, Ren turned to Leah and asked how many days had passed since the price increase. Leah quickly replied that it had been 7 days. Hearing this, Ren smiled and declared that it was time to deal with the merchants. Oriria, still frustrated, demanded that Ren stop being vague and explain his plans clearly. She warned him that if he didn't, the elf tribe would soon cut ties with him. Ren finally responded, explaining that he had kept the full details of his plan secret to avoid raising suspicions among the nobles. But now, with everything in place, he was ready to share. Ren revealed that the announcement mandating a minimum food price of 4 gold coins per sack had been in effect for 7 days. He then asked Oriria a question. What did she think the city was lacking most at the moment? After a moment of thought, Oriria replied that the city didn't seem to be short on anything. Ren smiled knowingly and calmly responded, what the city lacks are merchants who sell grain. This revelation shocks her to the core. Rain, with his hands in his pockets, asked if she finally understood, repeating his earlier statement about the lack of food and merchants to sell it. He added that greed is a fundamental trait in humans that can be easily exploited. Rain explained that the price of grains had risen from 2 gold coins to 4. Merchants from nearby areas, hearing the news, rushed into the city, bringing large quantities of grains. These grains would soon be purchased by Augustus and his companions. Meanwhile, merchants would even sell their own food rations to make a profit. Summing it up in 2 words, Rain said, everyone wants to get rich. With a grin, he revealed that the 4 great powers controlling the city's food supply would soon fall. Without delay, he handed a document to Leah, instructing her to post it in the city. He directed that the priestess should sell the church's grain reserves, going against his supposed orders, and that the price must be set at 1 gold per bag of grain. Oriria, utterly confused, questioned her role in all this. Rain, maintaining his calm demeanor, explained that he had no food to sell and asked how he could possibly be selling grains. Still clueless, she protested, repeating her usual argument about the food being insufficient for her race during the winter. Selena, who had been watching silently, burst into laughter and advised the priestess to follow Rain's instructions immediately, pointing out that she would lose money otherwise. However, the priestess, with a firm tone, stated that her people, the elves, didn't need money to survive. Rain, still composed, reassured her, saying that if she listened to him, she would have more food than she could imagine. He then turned to Selena, asking about the task of sealing the city gates. Selena reassured him, telling him not to worry. With that, it was time to execute the plan and make the greedy merchants pay. The next day, Rain noticed Leah's worried expression and asked what was on her mind. She posed a puzzling question, asking what would happen if things didn't go as planned. She wondered what would happen if the merchants held out, and the priestess completely sold the reserves. Rain explained that the foreign merchants were blinded by greed and eager to make overnight profits. If they suspected the price would drop, they would rush to sell, fearing they might lose their profits if they delayed. At Lord Augustus' manor, someone reported bad news. Augustus' companions informed him that the church was selling grains at a lower price. One of them asked what they should do. Augustus, unimpressed, questioned their panic, asking how much grain they thought the church could sell to the city and for how long. He then instructed them to send people to buy the grains being sold by the church at a low price. At the church, a huge crowd had gathered, all intent on buying the grain. The priestess, slightly anxious, tried to control the crowd, but she was met with shouts and demands to sell the grain immediately. Just then, guards arrived, and the crowd began to behave. A blonde-haired guard reported that the first batch of food had arrived under the Pope's orders and that more batches were on their way. The priestess received it with a smile, though internally, she complained about how Rain was making things more complicated for her. Seeing the first batch of food, the townsfolk rejoiced, believing the church had saved them. Meanwhile, a foreign merchant watching the scene froze in shock. Mentally calculating his costs, he realized he could still make a profit if he sold immediately at 90 silver coins. With that, he shouted at the top of his lungs that his grains were for sale at 95 silver coins. The townsfolk immediately flocked to him. Another bald merchant, watching the chaos, muttered, "You fool. You decided to play that game? No problem." Soon, the price dropped to 85 silver coins, then 80, and eventually 75 silver coins. Rain watched the scene unfold from a balcony with Leah. She remarked that his plans were playing out exactly as he had predicted. Rain calmly reminded her that it was human nature, explaining that if merchants delayed selling, they risked losing significant profits. Leah asked if the price of grains would fall to 50 silver coins, which would accelerate his dam project. Rain cheekily hinted that the price would drop even further. He added that before Augustus and his group started selling their grains, the price of food in the city would already be worthless. Leah asked if Augustus and the major families would sell their grains at a low price, pointing out that they had bought the grains from the merchants at 2 gold coins, which was already quite high. However, Rain, with his arms crossed, remarked that she was overthinking it. When it comes to making money, it becomes every man for himself, he added. With the problem of the grains solved, Rain announced his next plan: to get the Saintess to agree to his offer. Meanwhile, a blond man complained to Augustus about the drastic drop in food prices. He exclaimed loudly that the current price was now 75 silver coins for a bag of grain. Another companion argued that it was impossible, explaining that all the grains in the city belonged to them. However, the blond lord insisted he wasn't lying. Augustus closed his eyes, deeply pondering their situation. Suddenly, he opened his eyes abruptly, fully understanding the scheme, and cursed Rain for attempting to ruin their family. His companions, concerned, asked what was on Augustus' mind. Augustus then explained Rain's plan in detail. First, Rain had made a large deal with them, raising the price of grains in the city. This attracted foreign merchants to their city. Then, he used the church's name to lower the price, forcing any foreign merchant arriving late to reduce their prices further to avoid losses. "This is bad," one of his companions expressed in a frightened tone. However, Augustus, with a dark expression and gritted teeth, told them not to worry. He had a plan to turn the tables. His idea was simple. They would stockpile enough food and hold off selling, pointing out how long they thought food would last in the city. He added that they had to work together and not sell, promising they would recover their money. He also warned them of the consequences of betrayal. The dark-haired lord agreed and announced his departure from Augustus' mansion. "For now, let's call him Charles." As Charles walked away, he suddenly realized Augustus' plan was nonsense. He concluded that he needed to sell his grains quickly rather than wait. However, the other companions, almost as if they had read his mind, decided to play the same game. They immediately excused themselves and left Augustus' mansion as well. After they left, Augustus' butler approached and informed him they would instruct their men not to sell. Suddenly, Augustus delivered a sharp kick to his face, shouting angrily, "What do you think the rest of the families will do?" He then ordered them to sell all their grains immediately, saying he couldn't waste any more time. The scene shifted to Rain's estate, where he asked the Saintess Aurelia if the grains were enough for the elves to survive the winter. Aurelia, a bit confused, questioned why there was so much food. Rain shook his head, realizing he needed to explain. He reminded her that she had sold her grains for a high price of 2 gold coins earlier, and had made a significant profit. Just then, Lillian interrupted with alarming news. The prices of grains had fallen again, and now someone could buy 3 bags of grain for just 1 gold coin. Rain turned to the priestess and asked if she trusted him now, pointing out that the price of grains would continue to fall if they waited a little longer. Switching to business, he then asked about his offer. Aurelia, concerned, asked what Rain wanted from the elves. With a firm tone, he replied, "He wants everything." Leaving her in surprise, he explained further that he wanted to handle everything related to doing business with the elves, from clothing and food down to the smallest items, and that the price was negotiable. More surprised, she exclaimed that she would need to discuss such matters with her people and couldn't make the decision alone. Rain agreed, urging her to inform them quickly. After she left, Rain reflected on how the food crisis had been solved. No major family would dare interfere now. The Mage Guild was under his control, and soon the church would be as well. However, he acknowledged that Lord Eldrick still had 2 trump cards: the military and taxes. He needed to figure out a way to control the army to stop him. Leah interrupted his thoughts by gently calling his name. She advised him to relax, assuring him that she would also help. Their moment was interrupted by a merchant complaining to the Saintess. Rain approached them, inquiring about the situation. The merchant, a bit annoyed, asked about Rain's identity. Rain, with his chin raised, calmly replied, He is someone interested in doing business with you. The scene shifts to one of the city gates. A patrolling guard orders Lillian Carter to stop and demands to know what's inside the carriage. Lillian cheerfully explains that she is a citizen of Island City and that the carriage is loaded with goods meant for delivery to the elves. The blonde guard immediately commands his men to search the carriage. Suddenly, one of the soldiers intentionally smashes a jar. Lillian tries to intervene, asking how she's supposed to transport goods with broken jars, but she is quickly stopped. Just then, the soldier reports that there's nothing suspicious inside the carriage. The blonde guard then turns to Lillian and demands she pay a customs fee. She quickly protests, questioning why they would demand fees after damaging her goods. With a different demeanor, the guard coldly warns her to pay the tax or leave. Before she can argue further, a voice from inside the carriage instructs her to pay the guard, handing over a silver coin. The guard sneers, announcing that Lord Rain has increased the taxes to 5 silver coins. At this, Lillian loses her composure, loudly complaining about how they expect her to pay 5 silver coins when the items in her carriage are worth only 3, and that's without considering the damage they caused. However, the guard stands his ground, stating she can leave if she can't pay. Furious about the extortion and their use of Lord Rain's name, Lillian reluctantly hands over 5 silver coins. The guard finally allows them to pass. As the carriage moves on, the person inside is revealed to be Rain himself. He sarcastically remarks that Lord Rain must be a scumbag for increasing the taxes. However, the merchant accompanying him advises caution, reminding him that Lord Rain is considered a benefactor of the city. Rain finds the merchant's attitude strange, noting the soldier's claims about increased taxes, yet hearing the merchant thinks highly of Rain. The merchant, excited by this observation, guesses that Rain must not be from the city if he doesn't know about his own accomplishments, such as solving the food crisis. The merchant explains that, while he lost money because of Rain's decisions, it was the first time he'd been happy to see a lordship care for the people. Rain then asks about the Edwin family and if the merchant supported their downfall during the banquet, as well as the use of people to complete Rain's projects. The merchant defends his stance, explaining that the Edwin family deserved the punishment. Rain presses further, questioning the reasoning, but the merchant insists that Rain doesn't fully understand the Edwin family. The merchant reveals that people think the Edwin family earned their wealth from the casino, but that wasn't the truth. Rain asks if the merchant knows something more. The merchant hesitates, exercising caution, leaving Rain puzzled. Finally, in a whisper, the merchant reveals that the true source of the Edwin family's income was human trafficking. This revelation angers Rain, who notes that, despite the city's already sparse population, the Edwins chose such a vile trade. He resolves to find a way to deal with the corrupt guards before the situation worsens. Suddenly, their conversation is interrupted by Lillian's voice. She confronts a border guard, demanding to know why he's collecting taxes again since they just left the city. The guard explains that the first tax was for the city, and this one is for the border fortress. Lillian is outraged, calling it nonsense and pointing out that gate taxes were previously paid only once. The guard, unfazed, warns her to either pay up or leave. This time, the price is 1 gold coin. Lillian screams in frustration, accusing them of outright robbery. However, Rain advises her to follow their rules for now, clearly worried about the situation. The guard then orders anyone inside the carriage to come out. Rain calmly exits the carriage, his demeanor casual. The guard, stunned by his presence, begins to wonder aloud about his identity. Suddenly, the guard spotted the merchant and addressed him by name. Rain asked if they were acquaintances, but he was met with stunned silence. Trist, the merchant, revealed that the guards were actually mountain bandits who had secured their positions with the help of the Edwin family and were involved in human trafficking. The guard, now wearing a dark expression, remarked that Trist hadn't paid the required taxes. Pointing his lance at Trist, he demanded a sum of 5 gold coins, warning that he wouldn't let them leave otherwise. Just then, Rain interrupted, asking how tax revenue could still be so low despite the exorbitant amounts being collected. The guard immediately turned to Rain, demanding to know where he came from. However, his attention was suddenly caught by Leah's beauty, and he realized there were actually such beauties in the city. Sensing the guard's intentions, Trist quickly offered to pay the demanded amount, adding that no harm should come to them. The guard greedily grabbed the money and tossed it to his subordinate, but it was clear his focus was now entirely on Leah. As the guard made a move toward her, Rain immediately grabbed his arm, stating that people like him were useless and wondering why he once considered them suitable as free labor but not anymore. With a murderous aura, The guard attempted to attack Rain, but Leah swiftly intervened and dealt with him with a quick slash. The guard's lifeless body dropped to the ground as his subordinates looked on in horror. Rain, maintaining his calm demeanor, ordered Leah to deal with the rest. She nodded in agreement. The remaining guards, terrified, began running away like cowards, shouting that someone insane was attacking them and pleading for help. Leah effortlessly caught up to them and dealt with them like yesterday's trash. Meanwhile, Rain used his skill to analyze the situation, discovering that the gap in power was significant. They stood no chance against Leah. At that moment, Rain remembered his father's words about the country beyond Island City and his warning to be cautious. Back in the present, as Leah approached the remaining soldiers, they trembled in fear. Suddenly, a loud voice cut through the tension, demanding to know who dared cause trouble. The soldiers were relieved to see Caesar, their general. Caesar, a man with a scar over his eye, blonde hair, and a two-handed sword at his hip, immediately demanded to know Rain's identity. Rain used his skill to skin Caesar and discovered that his loyalty points were incredibly low, just 12. However, Caesar was undeniably a real talent. Rain, with a firm tone, asked if Caesar had a brother in the Prisia territory. Caesar was taken aback and asked how Rain knew his brother. Rain explained that his brother served Rain's elder sister. Shocked, Caesar asked if Rain was Rain Aldarian, the youngest son of the Grand Duke. The guards around them were horrified, realizing they had messed with the wrong person. Caesar suddenly recalled his brother's letter informing him about Rain's arrival. However, being disloyal, Caesar had been bribed by Eldrick. He remembered every detail of their earlier conversation and concluded that Rain must be insignificant to have been sent to such a place as Iceland. Finally, Caesar decided to act. He reached for his sword, commenting that he would end Rain for impersonation and be handsomely rewarded for it. Leah, annoyed, pointed her finger at Caesar, accusing him of rebellion. The soldiers hesitated, asking their commander what to do, aware that his actions could destroy his family. Caesar, unfazed, questioned his men, asking if they had forgotten. He pressed further, reminding them how Rain had ended the Edwin family and brought ruin to the 4 families controlling the food supply. He added that killing Rain would bring them great benefits. They could even have the chance to become lords and own lands. Caesar then asked his men to choose, would they rather die or live, making it clear that the choice was theirs. Leah, watching closely, realized that Caesar was manipulating the soldiers. The soldiers, now convinced, loudly declared their loyalty to their general. Confident, Caesar turned to Rain and mockingly asked if he had any last words. Rain, calm as ever, warned them that he was giving them a chance to change their ways, but then sighed in resignation. With that, Caesar gave the kill command, and the troops advanced toward Rain, who stood coolly, seemingly oblivious to the danger. Leah, annoyed by her dress restraining her movement, slashed it to free herself and then swiftly moved toward the soldiers. She delivered a clean slash to one soldier, and when another tried to catch her off guard, she effortlessly adjusted her stance and dealt with him like yesterday's trash. When a third soldier decided to prioritize attacking Rain, Leah immediately noticed and hurled her weapon with incredible speed, instantly taking him out. Our hero, with a smug look, advised Caesar not to be stubborn, warning him that he still had a chance to back down. Caesar is now enraged. He ordered all his men to attack Rain, promising a bounty of 1,000 gold coins for his head. The soldiers, enchanted by the promise of gold, charged at Rain in waves, but none of them stood a chance. Seeing this, Caesar called for the mage in his army and ordered him to cast an ice spell. The mage quickly prepared the spell, forming an orb in his hands before launching multiple ice arrows toward their target. Leah tried to deflect some of the arrows with a kick but was stunned when her feet froze, immobilizing her. Caesar seized the opportunity, ordering his troops to attack Rain now that Leah was out of the fight. As the soldiers charged, Rain casually tossed a hammer to Leah and instructed her to use it to free herself and then use wind magic. Leah quickly freed herself with the hammer and used her wind magic to leap into action. Meanwhile, Rain released the electric wire he had been holding with a smirk. The moment the wire hit the ground, the entire troop of soldiers was fried to a crisp. Our hero chuckled inwardly, standing safe on a small piece of wood to avoid the current. Seeing this, the remaining soldiers' faces turned to horror, wondering if Rain had used lightning magic. Caesar tried to rally his frightened troops, urging them to continue the attack. A trembling soldier hesitated, explaining that Rain was using some kind of forbidden magic and advising a different approach. Caesar immediately silenced him with a slash, decapitating the soldier on the spot. He then threatened the rest, warning that anyone who revolted would meet their ancestors early. Caesar reissued the order to kill Rain, pointing out that he was just one man. However, another soldier, losing the will to fight, questioned the chaos unfolding around him and hesitated to act. Leah noticed the remaining troops and asked Rain why he didn't finish them with his magic. Rain replied in a serious tone that the power had run out. It had only been a test run. Grabbing his arm, Leah advised that they flee. But Rain reassured her that nothing would happen and that his plan was to ensure Caesar didn't escape. Interrupting them, Caesar, confident that Rain's magic had run out, declared it was time to fight back. But suddenly, lightning struck from the sky. Caesar, with a face full of disbelief, wondered why this person had shown up. It was Selena, taunting him for his actions. And she didn't come alone. Selena brought the cavalry with her. Rain complimented her for arriving just in time, noting that the battery had died. However, Selena, curious, asked about the effects of the battery in terms of discharge. Rain turned his attention to Caesar, stating that he would explain everything to her once they dealt with him. Selena agreed and immediately ordered the mages to handle the rebels. The cloaked mages swiftly began casting spells, launching lightning attacks at Caesar's men. This broke the soldiers' morale completely, and they lost the will to fight, fleeing for their lives. Caesar stood in shock, watching his troops abandon him. But Caesar wasn't about to give up. Even if he were to die, he vowed to drag Rain down with him. With a roar, he charged toward Rain, yelling for him to die. Rain, however, stood calm and unfazed, his hands in his pockets, as if Caesar's attack didn't concern him. Just as Caesar's attack was about to land, Leah intercepted it, her block so powerful it cracked the ground below her. Caesar was stunned by her timely intervention. Taking advantage of his surprise, Leah delivered a powerful kick, catching him off guard. The force sent Caesar flying, crashing into the barracks, and creating a cloud of dust and smoke. Leah, visibly irritated, called Caesar a scumbag for his actions. The scene shifted to Rain, sitting calmly, observing Caesar, who had finally regained consciousness and was now tied to a post. In a calm tone, Rain explained that the border troops had been stealing for a long time and asked Caesar when he had started working for Eldrick. Caesar expressed his shock. He asked how Rain knew. Rain reassured him not to be surprised, as he had been aware of Eldrick's actions and had been waiting for this moment. He added that, thanks to Caesar, he could finally put an end to Eldrick's schemes. Caesar scoffed, questioning what Rain planned to do against Eldrick with such little evidence. Rain calmly explained that Caesar was mistaken. Small things wouldn't move Eldrick, but knowing the annual tax revenue would be the key to transforming the city. Caesar laughed mockingly, pointing out that Eldrick controlled everything in the city, including the nobles. Rain stepped closer to Caesar, towering over him, and replied, living rich people are called nobles, but the dead are called corpses. Caesar, unnerved by Rain's sudden change in expression, asked if he intended to create a bloodbath in the city. Rain cut him off, explaining that the nobles of the city had only two choices: revolt and die, or obey and live. With a serious expression, Rain asked which choice Caesar thought the nobles would make. The answer was clear without needing to be spoken. After the confrontation, Rain began pondering his next move. The problem now was that Duke Soren from the north often sent troops, and the city walls needed to be repaired quickly. Without fortified walls, defending the city would be nearly impossible. Looking at a map, Rain explained that the elves to the west were allies, his elder sister's territory lay to the east, and the primary concern was the north, where Duke Soren resided. Just then, Leah interrupted, reporting that the border guards had extorted a total of 350,000 gold coins. Rain smiled and instructed her to use the border troops to protect the region, with each soldier receiving a wage of 100 gold coins. Next, Rain approached Selena, thanking her for lending a hand with her mages. Selena, showing excitement, replied that it was no trouble at all. She quickly asked Rain to explain the principle behind the lightning magic and how someone could use lightning without possessing magic skills. Scratching his head awkwardly, Rain promised to explain everything once they returned. Suddenly, Malcolm came running, urgently calling for the guild master. Annoyed by the interruption, Selena asked him to state his business quickly. Malcolm immediately reported that Eldrick had rebelled and taken over the city. Selena was left in shock, but Rain remained calm as always. This, after all, was part of Rain's plan. Panicked, Selena asked what they should do, pointing out that she had brought all her mages to aid Rain, leaving none to protect the city. Rain reassured her not to be anxious. He explained that he had been waiting for this moment for a long time, adding that the second Eldrick rebelled, he had already lost.